I know if you've been following our stories, you know what a tragic event that happened on Friday night. Jesus was arrested. He was falsely accused. He was beaten, and then ultimately led up to the hill of Golgotha. I know it was a tragic time for his disciples. They were shaken, they were hurt. Not just the 12, but all those others that are around them. Judas by now realized his betrayal was too much. He's committed suicide. He's killed himself. He's tried to return the money. He's tried to make things right, but there wasn't a way to do that. It was a celebration season, and you know, in the Jewish tradition, you can't do any work on the Sabbath day, and so when Jesus was crucified, he was hastily taken off of the cross, and he was placed in a tomb. And that process was so rushed. It didn't give time for the people that loved him to mourn him, to be able to share their last respects, to really do anything to really just be able to say the things that were on their heart, the things that had broken them. But I know you guys know the story. You know what's happening next. You know that though Jesus was in the grave, something was happening. You know, those of us studying the book of Romans, you know, we talked about that the wages of sin is death. But I wonder, what sins did Jesus commit? What did he do that deserved his death? And the answer was nothing. In Matthew chapter 27, we kind of pick up the end of that sad story. His family and friends, they didn't know what to do, but it said the next day on the Sabbath, the next day on the Sabbath, the leading priests and Pharisees went to Pilate, and they told him, "Sir, we remember what that deceiver once said while he was still alive. And after 3 days I will rise from the dead. So we request that you seal the tomb until the third day. This will prevent his disciples from coming and stealing his body and then telling everyone he was raised from the dead. If that happens, we'll be worse off than we were at first." And Pilate replied, "Take guards and secure it the best you can." And so they sealed the tomb and posted guards to protect it. But here's what happened early Sunday morning. I'm reading out of the book of Matthew, chapter 28 in our New Living Translation. It said, "Early on Sunday morning, as the new day was dawning." I mean, we're out here today. It might be hard to see me because you can see that the sun is fixing to rise. The sun is coming out on a new day. Jesus has been in the grave. He was crucified. He was buried. But early on Sunday morning, as the new day was dawning, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went out to visit the tomb. And suddenly, there was an earthquake. For an angel of the Lord came down from heaven, rolled aside the stone, and he sat on it. Can you imagine? They couldn't do any work until the sun was risen. They couldn't take care of the body. They couldn't do the things they were going to do, but as they were walking in the dark, heading to that tomb where they had watched Jesus been buried, there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven and rolled aside the stone, and he was sitting on it, and his face shone like lightning, and his clothing was as white as snow. And the guards shook with fear when they saw him, and they fell into a dead faint. And then the angel spoke to the woman. "Don't be afraid," he said. "I know you're looking for Jesus, who was crucified. He isn't here. He is risen from the dead, just as he said that would happen. Come see where his body was lying. And now go quickly and tell his disciples that he has risen from the dead, and he's going ahead of you to Galilee, and you will see him there. Remember what I have told you." And the women ran quickly from the tomb, and they were very frightened, but also filled with great joy. And they rushed to give the disciples the angel's message. And as they went, Jesus met them and greeted them. And they ran to him, and they grasped his feet, and they worshipped him. And then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go tell my brothers to leave for Galilee, and I will meet them there." I mean, what a great story to think that on that day, the day that they thought was going to bring them dread, the day they thought that might bring them pain and problems and worries, and just like you and I are standing here looking at the sun beginning to rise, starting to peek out over a far hill, those women saw something that even was brighter, something that was even more marvelous, more majestic. They saw an angel of the Lord. But as they ran to tell the disciples, they saw Jesus himself. CenterPoint, I want you to know, today is the day. Today's the day we celebrate the resurrection. Today we know that Jesus is alive. Jesus is alive. He's not dead. That's something that we can shout out to the world. That's something that we can declare to the whole nation. Jesus is alive. And so in a time of sorrow, in a time of depression, in a time of isolation, in a time when we feel so alone and so separated, know that the most important thing, the most marvelous thing in the world happened. And that is Jesus is alive. Today I want you to meditate and pray with me as we watch the sun rise over the eastern horizon. I want you to spend some time and think about what God has done for you and how God has changed your life. Let me pray for you. Our Heavenly Father, God, we praise you today. We are so amazed at your wondrous works. God, continue to work in our lives, Lord, as we remember the sacrifice you made. God, I believe that Jesus is alive today. The tomb is empty. Death has no hold on me. In your name I pray. Amen. You continue to pray.